welcome to another episode of Phases Podcast, the unpopular genre. If you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell. Stay up to date. The episodes have been coming, so you want to stay tuned. And if you're a returning listener or viewer, you already know the vibes, how we do. So, guys, we got a little bit of a different scenery today. Just switching it up a little bit. So a lot has happened this week, and usually, I'm not a fan of like speaking on things that specific is like specifics with people, but I did always say that I was gonna, you know, make sure that things that's like really relevant or really could, be brought on to the benefit of everybody. I feel like definitely we discussed, and it's been multiple topics surrounding it. One thing is, if we want to talk about it, let's speak about it constructively, if anything. So I wanted to talk about, or should I say today's episode, we're really going to be diving into the failure of relationships and why that is the case. I thought it was quite interesting that Judge Mathis, I had, seen a clip, and unfortunately it seems him and his wife are allegedly going through a divorce. And what made me want to speak about it was not just the fact of, the headline, but the clip of him being at the airport. I hope the lighting is okay. But I thought it was just very, like, real, because, he was vulnerable. It seemed like he was a bit accountable, and honestly, it was a situation that is not only very realistic for, why somebody could, even be in a position for a divorce, but it also made me think about how much this is something that we may do, whether you're in a marriage or in a relationship, on a consistent basis, and not even thinking about it, that could be detrimental to your relationship, along with different things that definitely is good to keep in mind if you're not already doing so, for the benefit of your relationship, because it's rough out here, and it's so funny because if you know me, relationships was always something that I originally wanted to get on YouTube and talk about, and I'm talking like almost 10 years ago, and it's just amazing, like, all the experience that I've gained to now be really ready to dive into relationships. I've been told I've given pretty good advice, but it's always just off the advice of just it being logical, you know what I'm saying, and realistic. So that's what we're discussing a little bit today. So even in the case where we were talking about Judge Mathis, I was doing a little research, and I was like, finding out how long like him and his wife was married for. So far, it's been nearly 40 years that they've been married. And when you think about that, like, that is a long time. And even when he was discussing, like, as to why, let me see if you put it in. I want to read his actual word. Okay. So I wonder, it was TMZ. I wasn't sure if it was, but I want to say his exact words because we're mainly getting this just off the strength of what lesson is can teach us. So he started saying, and he started saying, serving the community, taping my show, having fun with friends. That's what happens, guys. Never be too busy. Never have too much fun. And then he later said, but as you see, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't. I'm still out here on the road doing the same thing in terms of going out into another city. So what I got from the gist of what he was saying was, unfortunately, his wife could have been one that was very much in support of his dreams. And in the midst of that, I didn't do too much research on her to see what, she has going on, but just staying in context with supporting a maid and, sacrificing a lot of your time for someone, it can be so easy to get caught up like in your own little world, especially when you have like a partner that is solely invested in you. You do have some people that have that, and it's sad because sometimes they can be the easiest to take advantage of, because not everybody, like, realistically has big dreams, you know what I'm saying, or has like major things that they want to accomplish, but that makes them maybe a great partner to someone. However, sometimes it could go either way with that, because you have some, mates that will literally be everything that they need to be for that partner. And we have that in the example of both males who support their wives as well as wives who support their husbands. When you're in a different tax bracket, a lot of the petty things that we talk about now, the whole 50-50 and all that kind of stuff, like that's a whole different thing. When you're both dealing with money now, it's like, okay, but who has more at that level, right? So I feel like, even in the case with this, it was just like, it seems like she just started to like not feel appreciated, and kind of maybe been more invisible to the whole process or his old journey. I love to talk about marriage more than what I publicly talk about marriage, because I feel like my experience with it has definitely been one that it would never change my mind back to how I ever used to think. It's just the best way to describe it, because not only did you see the experience that you have, but while you're in an experience, you're gaining experience from other people. And I've always been a person that tries to stay like out open minded and transparent, and just like open to others and experiences. And I feel like that's always the best coping mechanism to getting through a problem that you may be having, is recognizing like, hey, somebody else has had a situation and it could have been 10 times worse. Let me see. So I've always been like big on those type of like research and finding experiences. So I wanted to just like take a moment to just like discuss some ways that, rather relationship, marriage, that things that you could kind of consider, because this video is really just to help people that really want to be in a relationship, let alone that may be in a little rough bit of a rough patch. It's rough out here. It really is rough. I feel like it's not enough of a safe space sometimes to talk about relationships, because it's so much of the negative aspects of relationships slash situationships, and these like unrealistic things that people have placed as a relationship that's not. And it's just so many things being cross contaminated amongst each other. So it's like, I really want to be sharing this type of stuff on my platform, and keep, because we are about keeping it real. If there's one thing we're going to do, we're going to keep it real. Okay. Okay. So, um, reasons being, right? We just talked about some comfort level, right? That can be so broad. And please drop some conversation down, whether it's experience you had, another one that you may know of that could be able to help the community. Because like I said, experience is our greatest teacher. It's so basic just to hear the one side or the one way of thinking. Open your mind up, you know what I'm saying, because it really helps you in life. But like, yo, comfort levels, like when you think about you being in a relationship with somebody for years, and you figure 10, 20 plus years, that really will show you like what a person's relationship is like built off of, because y'all are beyond comfortable with each other at that point. And that will really show like, okay, what type of, how can I say, what type of arrangement do y'all really have going on over here? Because that's really what it really boils down to at that point. It will really show like, what type of marital arrangement do you have? Do you have a marriage that you are invested in, a relationship that you are invested in and are actually present in? You have a lot of singly married people. That's why I hate that people like to flex marriage in a way where it's like, oh, if you're not, then it's something wrong with you. It's like, no, not necessarily, because really the relationship is what you make it. I love posting. Oh, that's my speaker. I love posting like different things, more so my close friends, about like love and like proposals and stuff like that, because I like to keep it fresh for people, you know what I'm saying, to see like something authentic versus all the nonsense. But it's also like a beautiful thing when it happens like authentically. Anybody can get married, anybody can be in a relationship, but what does it really mean? And a lot of times, like, it really boils down to what you want for your life. Because if you're happy and you're doing what you need to do for you, things like that will just continue to like motivate or inspire, and keep the image of love pure. You know what I'm saying? We hear about so much toxicity with the whole love thing, and everybody doing whatever works best for them. But sometimes keeping a good positive blueprint is important, and I like to share that to my people. But yes, and that kind of was touching on what we was talking about, or going into a level of contentment also. Now, the contentment thing can get a little crazy because, first point, we're talking about 10, 20, 30 years plus, let's bring it on down to less than 10 years. I feel like the first few years really will show you like who you're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? Who you are realistically dealing with, and it really depends on how and the where did the relationship come from, because the foundation is very much important, and how things come about is important, and examining that area is very important, because you can have people that just get into, once again, a partnership or arrangement that's been just going on, situationships that's just been going on for years and years, and because it's been just a flow, and it's a convenient type flow, you're not really, maybe digging in too deep or investigating it too much further. But in all actuality, if it's not genuinely where you want to be, or if this is not if your security is not within it, then it's not going to serve you well. It's going to last as long as you allow it, but it may not serve you well, because us women, men, I don't know too much if they can, how well they do with it. But I know for a fact women in gray areas, we don't do well. Even though we may function well, if we're benefiting, we may be able to overlook or whatever the case may be. But gray areas, women, mature women, let's start there. Mature women don't do well in gray areas, so if it's not clear what this relationship is being founded on, what the intentions with the relationship is from the jump, then that's when there can be a lot of different things that can happen after that point. Stop growing. That's another thing. Like this is given stagnant. Um, and this can be tricky because you have some people, like what I was talking about on the outset, that really is that type of partner that's there to support their partner. They don't really have too much of a goal for themselves, like not in the sense of where it's even a bad thing, like to be able to have a job that's paying the bills, and you have a hobby maybe, and keeping it going is good for you. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay. It's so many different people out here. I need you to understand. So you may really be like, dealing with that. But then again, it's like you sometimes an overly optimistic person and somebody of a more content nature, it can work because it has, but then sometimes it's not always, you know what I'm saying, the greatest fit, depending upon, once again, the basis of the relationship. I feel, especially now, it's pretty obvious with people that want to do something with their life and with people that don't. The people that's okay, you know what I'm saying? Because even if you're not like doing nothing extravagant, you don't have to do nothing extravagant in your life. Let's start there. A lot of times with everything that's going on, it's like, oh, if I'm not doing nothing big, or if I'm not trying to be known for something, I'm not important. And that's just the furthest thing from the case. Be who you are and you'll be okay. But oh, man. But the problem is when you're showing up as something that you're not. You have a lot of times people will fake who they really are just for the sake of getting with somebody, and then you're literally in a situation where you can't even maintain it because you've faked the funk of who you really are. And now that this is how, that's the foundation that was built on, so this is what you're giving me the impression that you're into, vice versa, only for you to later find out that it was all a facade. You know what I'm saying? But facades only last for a certain amount of time. You really just have to have your radars up, your antennas moving, and be aware of what's going on out here. Seriously. Boredom, people get bored. Now see, this is my thoughts on boredom because it's a difference between somebody getting bored with somebody because they lack appreciation, they are unsatisfied, they are immature. Like, what are we getting bored of? All these are usually good questions to ask, because you can have somebody that gets sexually bored just after the first few instances or occasions with being, intimate with somebody. That's a whole different level than oh, it seems like, we don't do much and we're not really like invested in each other as much, and it's kind of like boring. That's two different things, because even somebody that's like the on a bored spectrum, or where they're like longing or like looking for more, versus one figuring out, is it something with them that might be causing them to like just be viewing the situation in the wrong way. It's just so many questions that really like can come to the forefront. And nowadays it's like you really got to be careful about like just relationships and stuff, because people are greedy. You know what I'm saying? People are greedy. People are, so unappreciative, and to they don't always want to put the work in, and then not think that they're going to reap a benefit of something greater, when it's like what work has been put in for greater. So it's a lot of, oh, it's rough out here, and people are so set in their ways that a lot of times things are working against somebody versus for them, so you really just, another thing just to think about, like, what's even your level of boredom? How easy is it for you to get bored with somebody, like, how, like, what are the bases of your relationship? How far have y'all come and your connection? Especially, that's why I always say I never really did the whole just like freely dating, because it's so many ways to get an area gray. So it's just like, that is just probably like the ultimate way to keep a gray area, or a gray space in a situationship. Because it's like, if you're not establishing a relationship, what are you really doing? And that just ultimately adds to the greed, because you have some people that's okay with having a relationship over here, wanting a relationship with you over here. That, to me, having multiple relationships, and especially after a certain age, is a joke. Because how are you even able to focus on multiple relationships at the same time? You know what I'm saying? And it just amazes me. It amazes me with the sad stories that you really hear. And it's just like, I want not only just women, but men, wake up. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all have to just be accountable, because just as much as these men are hurting women, I'm empathetic enough to realize too, with the damage of a hurt woman is also doing back to the man. It's just like a revolving door, back and forth, getting nowhere, you know? So these are all things to definitely consider. This kind of will go with contentment, maybe, but we stopped doing what we used to do. You know what I'm saying? We stopped doing what we used to do. Now, this is a couple ways to even look at that, because as you show up as yourself in a relationship and you're dating somebody else who's showing up as themselves, you're naturally going to do things, that you do, and most of the time, and this is just one way, where it could, be to the stop doing things that you used to. When it's not being reciprocated, it's going to die. You know what I'm saying? We got to, sometimes it's always so easy to be like, oh, you stop doing this. But if this person was the only one doing it, it's going to wear off. That's just like get into a relationship and, the male or the female is doing everything, even sometimes it might be so easy to think like, oh yeah, like a man is a man. He needs to do everything. But when you put that responsibility, and it's laughable because women will put that responsibility, complete responsibility, on a man to service them, or, give them a life that they would not even be able to have themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you are a female that has been able to walk different maturity paths in this life, and, be able to really, pat yourself on the back for being an adult, like, kudos to you, because a lot of people are really looking for people to upgrade their lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? It's very much a very transactional way of living going on around here. So it's so many things that can really just transpire because people be so hyped to show off and be something that they're not in the beginning. Things eventually start to die off. You know what I'm saying? So you being, especially a female, like, it's so important for you to live experiences and just do what you need so that way it's easier for you to look through the BS, especially as you get older. I've been more empathetic to the fact, or sympathetic to the fact that not everybody has had the same experiences, because sometimes I'll look at something and be like, wow, that wasn't clear, but no, it's not for everybody. You only see it like this, because of your life experiences and the things that you chose to invest in, and learn and teach yourself. Not everybody is even there, So when you kind of like examine things on that level, it makes you be more motivated for conversations like this. Like, think about that, because when you are not able to be easily, disguised with somebody being something that they're not, you can honestly see, what is going on. And then you can always make the determination, because, like I said, nothing fake is going to last. A lot of people love bomb in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times it stops, and a lot of time you got to think, when it comes to it becoming like stopping, or people not doing the things that they used to do, that makes you ask yourself at that point, was it one, something that this person was even capable of doing to begin with? Or was this something that was this also something that this person was genuinely able to do? A lot of times it's a beautiful thing to have a man or have a woman that does whatever the things that you like, and especially when you don't even have to tell them, like, they are just in tune with the love language and the emotional intelligence and like, it can be cool and all that, but at the same time, that that can be so many different reasons why that has to be groomed, you know what I'm saying, or developed. You might not always be on the same page, but if you're not, sometimes it can be that you might just need to be with somebody that gets on the same page as you. It can be a lot of work trying to exist and trying to be something that we're not. And it can take a lot of effort. You start feeling like something wrong with you, or vice versa, when in all actuality it probably is just not the best fit, or situation. It makes no sense trying to make something work that doesn't work. And a lot of times that's another thing. Like, people try to make stuff that work, or make something work for the sake of kids, or for the sake of, oh, we living so good, or we got money, so we comfortable. But at the same time, that relationship is not service to you in the way that it wants. That's not always even saying, oh, we got to break up. No. If something's not servicing you, you are then supposed to examine yourself as well as the situation, to be like, okay, well, what's going on? What has changed? Because that allows you to see, was it something in yourself that changed, or is it something with your partner? Once again, multiple questions to be asking ourselves. Compromise is real too. Now this is a little where it gets a little sticky, because nowadays you really got to be careful when we're even talking about compromising. Like, are we compromising on the color of the wall being painted, or are we compromising on things that wholeheartedly you don't like? You know what I'm saying? And this all stems back to knowing yourself and understanding who you are, because there are some people that will try to talk you or guilt you out of what you feel, or what you believe, or whatever the case may be. And if you're a person that can be easily persuaded in that direction, you are not even one, let alone a good candidate for a relationship, because nobody should be able to push you into any type of belief. That's how people end up getting in domestic violence situations, because there's some people, men and women, that prey on weak-minded individuals just to go and get involved with them, just to manipulate them into being and acting and doing for them whatever they want. Like, it's real. So you really have to show up and be intentional about everything, because you can be led to anything you want in this life. And that's a scary thing. But I was just really pondering on that for the last few years. Like, we like to sit up here and say, oh, you could be this and you could be that and you could do all these different things. But if you're not careful, you can end up in some experiences, let alone life's circumstances that you would have never even expected, simply because you weren't careful, and you didn't have yourself identified enough to be careful with what you're getting yourself involved in. Settling is another one, somewhat with the compromise, but a lot of times, like we talk about with relationships and marriages that have been for a long time, you know, people get comfortable. You know what I'm saying? And even it's so even talking about both sides of that for a moment, like you have men who forget the little things. You know what I'm saying? Women, we usually always, you know what I'm saying, are on the little things for the most part. But then in that type of situation, you might have a woman that is just getting greedy. You know what I'm saying? Or lacks appreciation for the type of man that she really does have. You know what I'm saying? Sorry guys, battery died. But it if you are dealing, let's just get the groundwork started right quick. If you're dealing with somebody who is appreciative, you know, is the right one for you, you're genuinely in love, or you genuinely, have a real relationship or a real connection going on here. Most of the time, especially in this day and age, and I have to emphasize the dealing with the right person because, it's a lot of different women out here on different time. Let's start there. But for a woman that is like invested in the relationship and committed and so forth and so on, and we'll hit the mail in a second, but you doing the little work, even just hearing the conversation, anytime a woman says something or anything and you happen to do it without her even asking, not only is that opening up the doorway for you to get what you want, because men can really get a lot of what they want out of a woman. That's why it only takes dealing with the wrong woman. Hold on. Hello? You get one hello from me. Won't get my recording. Um, and you're covering the groundwork. You're taking her on dates. You're being intentional. You're understanding first of all what she likes. So you're constantly doing that. It's like the little things always get missed, and that be like the biggest things as to why things don't continue. But it could just be so easy to, like, once, especially like once you already get that hold, or not that hold, but that door unlocked, let's say, um and you just get to reap that as a man. All you have to do is just keep pouring back into it by doing the same thing you did in order for it to naturally come to you. And I think sometimes, whether it's male or female, you can be so absorbed in the receiving of it, like, oh my goodness, this person is doing this, doing this, doing this, and that you forget that what are you giving back to keep getting it reciprocated? You know what I'm saying? We forget that you can't pour from empty cups. And a lot of times, especially in the beginning, like, you're full, because you, for whatever reason, you're full. And so it's easy to give that, you know what I'm saying? But then it's going to only be a certain amount of time that you're going to allow to pass before you stop being okay, before you're okay with being like, okay, I haven't seen this in a long time. I know what I've been putting in. Why is it not being met at all? So once again, another area is consideration. Um, and honestly, that's why you be hearing about the divorces and stuff and relationships ending, because it's so easy to speak when you're not sitting in that relationship, and people are very much content and complacent, or let alone stuck in their ways is the main phrase here. So we've talked about a lot, but even to kind of close this out, genuinely just have your own mind, even to that point of like, you're not existing in anybody's relationship, nobody's existing in your relationship. So you are the only person, between you and God, is the only person that can make and understand and change the situation for the better, So it's very important that you constantly understand yourself, know yourself before anything else. But if you are in a must of being in a relationship, understand what you want. Make sure that this is what you want, because once you are invested in somebody else's life as well as their feelings, you have to be careful of how you're dealing with those things, because everything that goes around comes around. So if you're not, you want people to be careful and caring of your feelings, and you're not doing the same to them, probably not going to fare well. So this was a cute little conversation. I love talking about me some love and relationships and whatnot. So definitely excited to be sharing that on the platform. So without any further ado, please make sure you follow me on my platform. Stay up to date, stay connected. And without any further ado, I'll see you in the next video.